this is Laura here at Art Zone, and I am going to walk through how to make a clay pie with you. So that's exciting. This one is going to focus on the slice of pie, but we also make them as a mini whole pie, and then we have one that's a bigger pie than this that is also a whole pie. Again, but this video is going to be focusing on the slice of pie. Here you have an apple pie. Here you have a cherry pie. Basically in your clay kit though, you've already got your pie crust and you've got a ball of clay that you can use to make your cherries or blueberries, any of your filling things. And then you have a top that looks like this. This could be, if you wanted to make pumpkin pie, you could use this as your pie filling. Or later in the video, I'll show you how you can use it to make your top crust. Like so, like one of those guys, all right? And then of course in your clay kit, you'll also find your clay tools. You have a popsicle stick and a skewer. And then you have your glaze kit, which you'll find all your glazes. You can mix those glazes together. So you can mix your red and yellow and make orange, or you can mix your yellow and blue and make green. So you have plenty of color options there for you guys to use. You also have brown in your kit. If you want your crust to be lighter or darker, just add a little bit of white or a little bit of black and you'll get either way. Okay? All right, so let's get started. So the first thing you're going to want to do is find your pie crust. You're going to just take a little bit of water and your finger, and you can smooth out anything that you might not like. Kathy already started smoothing this one, so it already looks pretty good to go. But yeah, so that would be the first step, is just smoothing it out. Then I want you to peel back your paper plate that should be with your crust, and go ahead and write your name or initials on the bottom. I started there with LA. Not that there you go. You can kind of see it. Okay, so we've got it smoothed out. We've got our initials on it. Now we're ready to roll. The first thing that you should do is decide, obviously, what kind of pie you want to make. Because if you want to make one that is a cherry pie, then you're just going to want to take your extra clay and make a lot of little balls, right? Fairly simple. You can have all different sizes and shapes, but you want a lot of them, okay? If you want to make an apple pie, you just again, take a piece off your clay and just turn it into a shape of an apple slice. And that's up to you how you do that. What other kind of pies can we think of that we might want? A pumpkin pie. Again, you would just want to take your extra piece and set it in there. So for this one, I'm going to make a apple pie. No, I'm not either. I'm going to make a cherry pie because I think that that is one of the easier ones. Sometimes it gets a little hard to make all those apples, so I just find cherries to be easier. One thing that you're going to want to do, and I didn't bring glaze in here with me. Glaze is just another word for paint. They call it glaze whenever you're doing clay because there's little pieces of sand in there, and when that sand heats up in our kiln, it's what turns it to glass, and then that's what causes it to be shiny when you get it back. So that's why it's called glaze. I did not bring any in here with me, and I should have, because your first step is you want to glaze your pie crust whatever color you want it to be. So if you want it to be brown or a tan color, so say I've mixed my brown and a little bit of white and I made a tan, I would first glaze this crust completely. Then I would start taking my cherries and I would add them into my crust. Now since it is wet, I don't have to scratch to attach, right? Normally we would take our cherry, we would scratch it up, then we'd find it on our pie and we'd scratch it up. We'd add a little bit of water to both pieces and put it together, right? But since my pie crust is already wet from the glaze, I don't have to do that. I can just go ahead and place them in there, as many as I want. Again, the more you put in there, the better. So don't hold back. You got plenty of clay here, so make it work. Keep using it. All right, so we're gonna pretend like I've got a lot of cherries in mine when really I don't have enough. So once I get my cherries in there, then, cherries are red, I would paint them red. When you go to paint them red, it's okay if it gets on the pie crust, because whenever you make cherry pie, there's all that pie filling, and that cherry has that goopy stuff in there. So the more of that you put in there, the more it looks like you have that actual pie filling. So don't be afraid to put that glaze on your cherries. Let some of it drip down into your crust. It's okay, it's gonna look good, all right? And so again, the more glaze you use, the better it turns out. So don't be afraid to really use a lot of that paint. So let's say we've got that completely done. We've painted it. I'm not gonna do that because I don't want this video to be 30 minutes long. We wanna keep it short. And of course, if I go too fast, you can always pause me, do your step, and then come back and catch up. So we made our cherries, we glazed our pie crust, we added our cherries to our pie crust, then we glazed our cherries. Now we need to make our top of our crust. Before I do that, I want to show you one more thing. Let's go back. In case we're making the pumpkin pie, where I have then put in my pumpkin pie filling. See how it kind of fits it perfectly? You might have to fix little parts of it, but it fits it pretty perfectly, right? So in that case, you would want to scratch to attach this guy, or slip and score. And so we would scratch this up, nice and messy. We'd scratch up our pie crust, and it would be nice and messy. And then we'd add just a little bit of water to our scratch marks, right? And put that in there. I would still glaze that crust first, and then put my pie filling on there, and then glaze that. And then maybe I wanted to use my extra clay to make a little bit of Cool Whip. I like to make my Cool Whip look like a coil. And so I would make a little snake, wrap it up, and then again I would scratch to attach my little Cool Whip to my pie. So I would scratch it up, add that water, and put it on there, right? And then I would glaze my Cool Whip, and really you're done with your pie. So that's pumpkin pie. Now let's go back to our cherry pie. So again, we've got our cherries in there. We've painted them. We're ready to make our crust. You have options. You can take this whole thing and put it on here and just have one solid crust if you wanted to. That's kind of what this pie looks like. And then they just cut a little bit out. So you can do something like that. Or you can do what this person did, and they tried to make that pie crust that weaves back and forth. Okay, so if I were to do that, I would take my pie crust. I'm going to take my popsicle stick and use it kind of like a ruler, because I get a little OCD, I guess. So then I'm going to go ahead and cut my strip into pieces. I should have had some already pre-cut, and then you wouldn't have to be watching me do this part. So then I would take it and I would start placing them on there until I was happy with my pie crust. I would lay one, and then I would kind of try and weave them, weaving over, under, until I get them all right. And then once you get your pie crust on top, you would go ahead and glaze it, and you would be done with your pie. Now you notice on our apple pie, we had a little extra, and on our full pie, we had, again, little leaves. I don't know if you can, there you go. Those we have cookie cutters for here in the studio. Unfortunately, we don't have enough to be able to send those home for you to use. That one has an acorn on it. But if you have those at home and mom and dad say it's okay to use them, You just want to roll out a little bit of clay. So take your clay, mash it down, and then you want it to be thinner than your thumb. So when you set your thumb next to your clay, it should be thinner than it. Go back here where you can actually see it. So this one would be too thick, and I'd want to roll it out a little bit more. And then I would cut it. Just remember, if you're going to do something like that, or like this, that you have to scratch to attach those to Adam, okay? I think that's everything. I think we went through the pie. You guys know how to make a pumpkin pie. You know how to make the apple pie with the full crust on top. You know how to make a cherry pie with the wheat woven crust on top. So, again, let's walk through it one more time. So the first thing you do, smooth out that pie crust with just a little bit of water in your fingers. Flip it up, write your name on the back, and that's a great place to put the year. Put it back down. Glaze that crust. Put your cherries on there, because you should do that before you glaze your crust. Roll your cherries. Glaze your crust. Put the cherries on. Glaze the cherries. Then make your top crust. Okay, guys? Thanks again. If you have any questions or need any additional help, feel free to call us or send us a message. You can find us on Facebook at Art Zone Nixa. Thanks so much. Enjoy your holidays.